the heart of where innovation, money, and power collide in Silicon Valley and beyond. This is Bloomberg Technology with Caroline Hyde and Ed Ludlow.
Live from New York and San Francisco, this is Bloomberg Technology. Coming up, short seller Hindenburg Research bets against Roblox based on what it calls inflated key metrics and a lack of child safety.
And TikTok gets sued in California, New York and other states for deceiving users about its safety for children.
Plus, we hear from JP Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon on AI in an exclusive interview at the firm's Techstars conference in Europe. But first, we go straight to shares of Roblox, which are tumbling today after short seller Hindenburg Research said it's betting against the gaming platform, saying in its report that it has inflated key metrics and also focusing in on a lack of safety for children on the platform. We go to Bloomberg's Bailey Lipschultz for more. First, the accusations of people, of key metrics, time spent, engagement. What are they accusing here, Hindenburg Research?
Well, that's the big thing, Caro, is that this is a new take from the short seller, Nate Anderson, Hindenburg, targeting that they are inflating, or according to Hindenburg, are inflating some of those metrics to appease investors. We've seen long discuss the issues potentially with the platform and child safety. Bloomberg had a terrific big take in the summer titled Roblox Pedophile Problem. So that has been a well-discussed aspect. But those kind of allegations from Hindenburg that they have been inflating some of those metrics, again, the company says that they reject those deemed in the report, but that's what's new, is that the company could, at least, again, if you take Hindenburg at face value, they're betting against the company, could be boosting some of those numbers to allay any investor concerns that maybe they don't have the reach or the engagement that Wall Street is looking for.
Bailey, let's go to Roblox's response in full. In New York, let's bring it up on the screen. We totally reject the claims made in the report. The financial claims made by Hindenburg Research are simply misleading. The authors are admittedly short sellers and have an agenda irrespective of the substance of Roblox's business model and results. And what they go on to say is kind of a pushback against the thesis at the center of Hindenburg's research, which is because this is a company which Hindenburg claims isn't profitable, that the claim is they're misleading investors because they rely on a daily active user number and a people number that are the same. And if you read the footnotes of the disclosures, the footnotes read you shouldn't rely on the daily active user number because it could include bots or it could include alt accounts. In other words, one user holds multiple accounts. It's a hard one to follow, but just go over the back and forth between the two parties, Bailey.
No, to your point, Ed, when you look at how Roblox or really any other media or video gaming platform is valued, whether you want to point to, as the company did, the amount of cash receipts or their bookings growth, that is bullish for the company in their view. But to your point, what Hindenburg has laid out, looking at those metrics, they're looking at profitability in a string of unprofitable quarters. You really have to take it into consideration. Again, Hindenburg is betting against the company. The company is down 70% from its all-time high back in 2021. It has been on a string of losing kind of down days, down about 13-14% from a September high. So it really depends how you want to value it. You can point through any short seller report really and say that they're cherry picking data, which seems to be kind of what Roblox is doing here. But also on the flip side, if you're an investor who's long the stock, you need to understand and kind of wrap your mind around the totality of that data. But that also could just be why we're seeing Roblox down 4%, kind of paring back some of those losses. I do just want to call out that we're at about 9 times what is normal in terms of trading volume, more than 17 million shares already changing hands in the first hour and a half of today, which really is more than we would normally see in an entire session.
We have Roblox's response, and of course they've long been trying to show off ways in which they're trying to take on the safety concerns as well. I'm interested in that this isn't the only voice of a bearish nature, though. And we've heard from Edwin Dorsey, for example, who writes multiple bearish cases. And actually, he doesn't take any bets on the stock. He just outlines why he's perhaps concerned about particular companies. So is this a mounting view of concerns around numbers, or is this the first time?
I think as it relates directly to the user metrics, again, that is new, from my understanding. That is not what Edwin Dorsey has targeted. That is not what Bloomberg and other outlets have reported, primarily around around child safety and potentially putting profits over people. But these allegations, in terms of potentially inflating numbers, to my knowledge, is new. And I have read and read, as I'm sure a number of viewers do, have read a lot of what Edwin Dorsey and Bear Cave put out. And again, they've been publishing on this company for quite some time. And their most recent report was just earlier this week, kind of incorporating some of their metrics in their latest report from last week. But that really, from the Bear Cave perspective, for the most part, at least what I've read, focuses more on child safety, profits, and some of the, or lack of safeguards.
That is right. They are different theses in that respect. And we've made every effort to invite Hindenburg and Nate Anderson on this program. And we've made every effort to invite Roblox onto Bloomberg's Bailey Lipschultz. Thank you very much. Another breaking news story this morning. TikTok was sued by California, New York, and a dozen other states Tuesday for allegedly deceiving users about its safety for children and using harmful and addictive features to keep children on the platform longer to maximize profits. TikTok has not responded to a request for comment. Bloomberg's Mike Shepard joins us out of DC. Just explain the basics of the action taken by these states, the mechanism by how they took it, and what the claim is.
Well, the states have worked together in this claim against TikTok, as you described, going after the company over what the state attorneys general call harmful behavior to the public. In other words, baking in harmful and addictive features into the algorithm, into the software, into this platform that children are using so that they are hooked, so that it keeps them on as repeat customers so that they stay on the platform longer. This includes things like endless scrolling. It also includes features like beauty filters and comments and likes that can also harm children's self-esteem. All of this, they are saying, is causing a public health crisis among young people, and they are taking steps to try to address it.
There's not the only lawsuit, of course. There's been a barrage. There was a federal lawsuit just in August claiming TikTok allowed children to open accounts and gathered information about them when they shouldn't have been. What's interesting is TikTok, like Meta, like many other companies when it comes to social media and children, have been putting in place what they say are safeguards. You've got all accounts for teens under 18 starting out as private, they say, and a screen limit of some 60 minutes. What's interesting in this case is that the attorneys general take issue with those sorts of safety precautions, saying they're not really real.
Well, that's right. And in fact, in the case that you mentioned, and I'm so glad you brought it up, Carolyn, in August, the Federal Trade Commission sued the company for failing to abide by the terms of a 2019 settlement over child privacy. In both of these cases, what the federal government and then the state attorneys general are alleging is that these measures have not been enough. And in fact, in the case brought by California today and the other states, they are saying that children's private data was being exploited without parental consent or notice. And that is just a fundamental, in their view, violation of that relationship with children under the age of 13.
Mike Shepard, we appreciate it. Thank you. Now, let's turn our attention to South Korean tech giant Samsung, issuing a rare apology to investors after it posted disappointing results, admitting that it's grappling with a potential crisis after losing its way. The newly appointed head of Samsung's core chip business has promised to overhaul the organization and began laying off workers last week in Southeast Asia, Australia, and New Zealand as part of a plan to reduce global headcount. Ed.
Okay, coming up on Bloomberg Technology, Rivian hits a snag in its supply chain, throwing a wrench in 2024 production targets. One of the stories we'll bring you later in the hour. Take a look at shares of Nvidia. It's off its session high, where it touched a gain of 4%. But that would make the stock trading at its highest level since mid-July. It's interesting, they're holding their AI Summit DC right now, where they're talking up Blackwell, and they're talking up about how energy efficient it is, trying to overcome concerns about power consumption in the context of GPUs that go into data centers. We continue to track Nvidia for obvious reasons. Stay with us. This is Bloomberg Technology. Amazon is set to face an antitrust suit filed by the US Federal Trade Commission over complaints that its online marketplace practices harmed competition. Bloomberg's Leah Nyland joins us out of DC. And Leah, give me the basics of the complaint and the process.
Yeah, the FTC filed this complaint a year ago in September, alleging that Amazon has harmed merchants who use its online marketplace through a variety of tactics. Amazon, of course, denies the allegations and filed a request that the court throw out the complaint at this early stage. That's pretty unusual, but Meta was successful in the first round when it did that against the FTC complaint, so Amazon tried as well. The judge recently released his decision, and he agreed to toss out just a couple of allegations under various state law claims that Amazon's marketplace violates state consumer protection laws. But he ruled that the FTC's complaint can move forward, which is a pretty big blow to Amazon. Amazon had made a bunch of arguments that, its marketplace is designed to help consumers. All of its algorithms are designed to help lower prices. And the judge just said that may be the case, but at this point in the suit, I can't really consider that. We have to move forward a little bit before Amazon is allowed to make those kinds of arguments.
Okay, so Amazon front and center, but so too is Alphabet at the moment. In multiple ways, we're expecting yet further updates in terms of concerns around its own marketplace today, I believe.
Yeah, so yesterday in the Google Play Store case, this is an antitrust case that was going on out in California involving Epic Games. The judge in that case imposed an injunction on Google that's going to ban it from paying developers or manufacturers to make its Play Store the default one on its device. So it can no longer pay developers to exclusively launch their apps in the App Store. It has to allow other companies that want to, like perhaps Amazon or Microsoft, to offer alternate app stores for Android devices. And this lasts for 3 years. The idea is that Google has made all of these provisions in its rules related to the App Store that really harmed competition, a jury found last year. And so this 3-year prohibition on paying developers to launch exclusively and being forced to allow other app stores is to help develop more app stores in the Android ecosystem. So Google is going to appeal, of course. They already announced that yesterday. So this isn't going to go into effect immediately, but there was an immediate impact on the stock price because this is a $14 billion a year business for Google, and it's going to definitely impact the amount of revenue they make each year. Separately today,
Carry on.
Separately today, in the search case, this is the one that the Justice Department filed in 2020. The judge ruled earlier this year that Google has an illegal monopoly in online search and online search ads, and the Justice Department is supposed to make its first proposal sometime later today about what it thinks Google should be forced to do to sort of remedy the harm caused in the online search market. We had reported a couple months ago that one of the options that they might be proposing is a breakup. So this could be the first time that the federal government is looking to break up a company in decades. So we're sort of eagerly awaiting that here in DC.
Search, App Store, and over with Amazon, its marketplace. There's a lot on your plate. We appreciate it, Leah, Nyan. Now let's just talk about another company, Meta now. But it is actually rolling out new AI tools to help advertisers create and edit videos more easily, seeking to reach Facebook, Instagram users who are spending more time watching videos. Now, the new features, which will be available broadly next year, will let advertisers use generative AI to turn static images into video ads. And marketers will also be able to edit and adjust the size of the video ads automatically. Let's bring in Rachel Tibograph, who is the founder and CEO of MikMak, e-commerce marketing platform for multi-channel brands. It's so interesting, all these generative AI tools. We had, of course, the CEO coming on of other key social media companies that have really been thinking about the ways in which they can use generative AI. That was Pinterest last week. We get Meta today. Rachel, what does it add to your marketers who want to spend time on these companies?
Yeah, the announcement that Meta made around what they call Meta Gen Video is pretty big because the number one barrier to advertising is creative. And the fastest growing ad platforms are ones that are centered around short form video. So the fact that they're now going to create solutions that democratize video creation, it should boon to them to get more ad dollars, not just from big Fortune 1000 brands, but really all of the SMB businesses. And that's the long tail of advertising that's really going to propel Meta's growth forward.
But go into this visual that we see now, impressions, commerce impressions. You're saying basically Meta is driving 2/3 of social traffic on Micmac, so it's already a winning formula from your perspective.
It absolutely is, but to put this slide into context, between 2023 and 2024, we've seen a 10% growth in brand traffic in Meta. We've seen 190% growth in brand traffic in TikTok. So if Meta wants to continue to have this huge leap in front of platforms like TikTok and Google, it needs to continue to make investments in their platform. They cannot rest on their laurels, and that's why I'm personally very proud of Meta for recognizing that they need to make deep advancements in AI to continue to lower the barrier to entry for advertisers.
Rachel, I'd like to go back to Meta and that news for a minute, because you understand the importance of technology from the advertiser's perspective, right? The basics of it are this new feature can turn a static image into a video ad. Simple. But I think Meta's starting to get a lot of credit for the real world progress it's making in AI. Just your reaction to that basic idea and what you think it will do to move the path forward for advertisers.
Yeah, absolutely. So to put this into context, advertisers can spend somewhere between 10% of their overall marketing investments on creative. But that's just on the cost of creative. The amount of hours that go into creating a video, approving a video, up and down the totem pole, that's several people's jobs within an organization. So a simple solution like this might seem obvious and small, but it actually can change marketing and advertising as we know it. It also could create a rippling effect in terms of headcount. You might need fewer marketers with tools like this. So it's a really big deal in the advertising industry. The flip side is, for Fortune 1000 brands, when it comes to AI and creative, they do have two major concerns. Number one is copyright violation, and number two is data privacy. So there is a difference when you talk to a marketer that's running a business that's doing $50 million in revenue versus when you talk to a marketer that's running a business doing $1 billion in revenue. So Meta's going to have some work to do with the major advertisers to assuage concerns around copyright and data privacy.
I think we're going to move on a little bit to Amazon. It's Prime Day. I know that at home, Prime Day is going to be big, so I've got a few things I've got to get. For other people, let's be honest, it's completely inane. Why is Amazon Prime Day window important for you and your platform?
Yeah, absolutely. So Amazon Prime Day has now become a tentpole moment, not just within the US, but globally. It's a day to really move a lot of excess supply and bring value to consumers. In 2024, this is really important. On any given day at Micmac this year, we've seen a 20% decline in basket sizes. You've now seen this play out in public earnings of mass consumer product companies. Volume sales are down. Why? Because the last few years, major mass consumer product companies have taken price hikes, and now consumers are fighting back with their wallets. What Amazon Prime Day is going to show us today and tomorrow is how willing are consumers going to spend during this year's holiday season. There's been inflation, there's been price hikes, but on the other side of the equation, the Fed dropping interest rates and hopefully doing that again in November and December brings optimism to consumers.
Rachel Tivergraf, founder and CEO of Micmac, covering all of it. Thank you so much.
The US is in the early stages of an investigation into potential Chinese hacking of American telecom companies, according to a top intelligence official. Investigators say hackers may have accessed court-authorized wiretapping information. I want to discuss all of this with President of Wondros and former CISA Chief of Staff Kirsten Todd. So how do we know that it might be Chinese hackers?
Well, we're still learning about this effort, but what we're hearing right now is that this malicious actor we're calling Salt Typhoon, which is part of a People's Republic of China, PRC, state-sponsored cyber campaign. This one in particular, we believe to have hacked into internet service providers a little over a month ago. And we're researching now if it in fact has hacked into communications companies. We do believe this is part of this broader campaign. We saw Volt Typhoon earlier this year, which attacked attacked our IT networks, and we've seen Flax Typhoon, which is a cyber espionage effort by the People's Republic of China against Taiwan organizations.
Kirsten, the focus is infrastructure, telecoms, but water infrastructure. Your expert analysis on that?
It's all infrastructure. When we look at intelligence over the last 2 years, last year our annual threat assessment from the United States intelligence community said that China would be seeking to pre-position itself on all infrastructure so that if we believe in China's strategic objective to go after Taiwan, it would have the ability to disrupt and in some cases destroy our infrastructure to minimize our ability to act as an adversary against China, against Taiwan.
So the response, the safety, is there enough coming from the United States?
We absolutely have to be doing more. If I'm a CEO or a board member of a company, I am ensuring that I am elevating my security, my safety. I have to assume that China is on my network. This isn't about fear. It's about strategy and being smart and preparing for a more secure and resilient infrastructure. We have to elevate our game. This shouldn't be news to any company. It shouldn't be news to any board member. Cyber board governance, the ability to bring this into the boardroom has never been more critical. All companies, particularly critical infrastructure companies, should be testing business continuity plans, should be testing different scenarios to ensure that they are safe and secure in light of this increasing threat.
Kirsten Tott, President of Wondrous and former CISA Chief of Staff, thank you so much. This Thursday, Bloomberg.
Welcome back to Bloomberg Technology. I'm Caroline Hyde in New York.
And I'm Ed Ludlow in San Francisco.
We are having a rally on our hands at the moment, Ed. Look at the NASDAQ up 1.2%. Mag 7 doing its thing.
Nice.
Who leads the charge? NVIDIA, of course. Let's get on to the individual movers as we still contemplate the direction of travel for the Federal Reserve and indeed whether they can continue to cut at the pace. NVIDIA bounces back 3.3. This makes it a 13% rally over the last 5 days. As, of course, we also get news about its energy efficiency coming from its AI event that's happening today. Microsoft up a percentage point. Interestingly, though some more bearish calls are coming for this particular name. Will it live up to its AI hype? Oppenheimer now warning on its AI revenue being overestimated. Nevertheless, Microsoft pushes up more than a percentage point. Supermicro coming down from its super rally yesterday. We're down by almost 6%, let's call it, after it rallied more than 15% yesterday. This is on the back of it talking about it deploying over 100,000 graphics processing units, so GPUs in just one quarter alone. They're also talking about liquid cooling systems, but remember, this is a name that's been beaten up because we're worried about accounting, the DOJ investigating that, Ed.
Now, there are corners of the market around the world where investors are a little bit disappointed that China is holding back on further stimulus, but Beijing still expressing confidence in current targets.
We are fully confident in realizing our goals for the whole year and have full confidence in maintaining continued steady and sound development of the economy.
Let's bring in Bloomberg's Isabel Lee, who all week has been tracking what's going on in the China equities market. And I guess if you're tuning into Bloomberg Technology for the first time, or even if you're tuning in for many times over the past week or so, this idea of China stimulus and following the world around the clock, big market swings, particularly for tech names, what's kind of happened overnight? What's the new bit?
So China reopened its market and anticipation was really building up. Everyone was excited what will happen because we saw this spectacular rally that was powered by the massive stimulus blitz we've seen. But as we saw, investors were disappointed. China immediately held a press conference saying they're confident they will reach their growth goals, saying they will promise to further support growth, but stopped short of issuing more stimulus. So we have investors really underwhelmed by that. We have the benchmark CSI closing up around 6%, but that's after the pop of 11%. The Hang Seng Index in China tumbled 10%. That's the worst in 2008. And you look at the Golden Dragon Index now, it's down by 6.5%. The consensus among economists and analysts in my inbox is really just, they're all disappointed. They're saying that, okay, nothing much is new compared to the previous announcements, and it looks like the commitment to fiscal stimulus looks weaker than expected. So it just really shows how the optimism in China is quite fragile at this point for now, Ed.
Isabel Lee, the wrap up on what's happening for those Chinese-related names. Let's go out to Europe now, though, because JP Morgan Chairman and CEO Jamie Dimon sat down for an exclusive interview with Bloomberg's Lisa Abromowitz in London at JP Morgan's 12th edition of the Techstars Conference in Europe. Here's what he had to say about the US IPO market.
I think it may very well stay muted because markets may come down as opposed to just go up endlessly, and they may find other sources. So when I speak to a lot of private equity and private venture and stuff like that, they tell you they have more non-public sources. I do think it's very important that our policymakers understand, because even here in the United States, we've made it hard to go public.
Let's dig into that and some European names. Matt Gell for more. You're head of tech investment banking in Europe for JP Morgan. Matt, it's great to have you here. And look, we seem to be seeing the same. There are some large fintechs in particular that we're all waiting for with bated breath. We think of Klarna, we think of Stripe, which of course US-based but Irish founders, think of Revolut. But they're all able to tap the secondary market, get liquidity that way. Is that going to continue?
Yeah, well, I think it will continue, but I also think getting these secondary deals done is actually a really signal of strength of the market. These companies are able to go out there, being able to give liquidity to some of their earlier investors, put a fairly attractive valuation on the company, and remove some of the time pressure to having to go public. I think there's still a very strong intent of all these companies to get public in the near to medium term, but by doing these secondary deals, it means they can go exactly when they're ready and not be forced into a window that might be a little bit challenged with some of the macro and geopolitical issues we're going to be facing over the next 6 to 12 months.
Okay, so amid that uncertainty, if they do tap the markets, they do want to do an IPO, where? Do they always come to the US at the moment, given the liquidity here?
Yeah, I think the U.S. has certainly become the default for any business that's got a global footprint. If you've got a global footprint, you have the ability to go public wherever you so choose. And the U.S. is the deepest, it's the richest, and it's the most open, most regularly of all the IPO markets that are there. So for any European business that's got a global footprint, the U.S. is really the first, the second, and the third option they're thinking about. But most companies are trying to keep optionality, and particularly companies that have more of a European-centric footprint, are European champion. They're definitely keeping the options open for a European deal, and for larger European companies that have a European home ground, those are deals we do think are going to be able to get done in Europe over the next 12 to 24 months.
Matt, it's Ed here in San Francisco. I hope you're well. When I left London 6 years ago, it was those same fintech names that were the shining lights of European tech. Still the same names now. For all the analyst decks that hit your desk and you're thinking about the next big thing, is there anything else out there in your neck of the woods, in industrials, hard tech, chips?
Yeah, well, I mean, you said it right. Those are the same names that are out there. They've gotten a lot bigger, and so that's still a very good thing. So when they do go public, I think that's going to be very, very positive for the overall markets. But yeah, we are seeing a lot of investments into new areas. Deep tech has become really the buzzword of Europe, just as it's in the U.S. So that's spanning everything from the European versions of the LLMs, but we're increasingly seeing new investment going into chip companies, into industrial software companies, and so I think we've widened out a lot of the focus of the investment in Europe beyond just fintech and some traditional enterprise software. And I think that's going to be a net benefit for the whole ecosystem as we look out, 2, 3, 4 years.
In the context of technology, what is the future for London's equity capital market? Is there evidence to you that in the post-Brexit world, it's a great place to do a tech IPO?
I think it could be a great place to do a tech IPO for the right company. As I mentioned, if it's a British-based company that's got a global footprint like an ARM, a very natural listing location is going to be the U.S. It's got the deepest investor base. It's going to get you the best valuation, and that was really a huge success for ARM. If there's a business, as I mentioned before, that looks more European, a little bit more UK-centric, and it's going to come out with a sizable offering and a lot of liquidity, there certainly is an investor base to tap, but it really needs to be the right type of company to go public in the UK at the right time.
Let's talk about ARM a little bit more. They've often perhaps taken questions, at least, on whether they'd do another offering, secondary listing over in the UK. We're also thinking it might be, getting in the mix of what we eye in terms of M&A as well. What do you hear on ARM, and how do you hope to serve the company?
Yeah, I think, well, I mean, the ARM IPO, as I mentioned, has been a huge success in the U.S. And normally in the months and quarters after an IPO, you like to concentrate your liquidity in a single market. So I think that's been the focus for the company. Certainly over time, it could make sense to open up another listing, just like most of the major European companies have ADRs listed in the U.S. The likes of ASML or even ARM, when it was listed in the U.K., would do that. So I think that's certainly something they're thinking about doing in the near to medium term, but it's not imminent. From an M&A standpoint, ARM has not been a terribly acquisitive company, but because they become so central to the entire ecosystem and because so much more activity is happening around M&A and semiconductors, you certainly can't put it past them. The one thing they need to focus on is ARM has always been the Switzerland of semiconductors. They're neutral and sell to everybody. So before considering any type of M&A, they need to make sure they're not going to create a situation where they're competing with their customers.
There lies a large company, what you can do from a JP Morgan perspective in terms of secondary listings, in terms of advice is huge. What about the companies that are coming through the ranks, that are getting themselves VC funding, just early stages? How are you looking to serve them, or who's come to fill the void of Silicon Valley Bank? Is it the HSBC that makes the purchase?
Well, I think it's an open market. There's a lot of people trying to fill it. We certainly like to be one of the ones that are doing so. We've recently hired over 50 bankers that are completely focused on serving early stage technology companies, really Series A onwards, and trying to fill the void that some of the challenges that Silicon Valley Bank went through. But it's not just because of SVB we've done that. We've done that because we think if we can engage with the company earlier in its life, we can help that company grow when they really need the support the most. That's what cements the relationship. You get to know the CEO, the board, the founders really well. You help them think through strategically what to do. And then you're not telling an IPO story for someone you never met before. You're telling an IPO story for a company you've been working for 5 years. So I think there's just a huge opportunity to bank a company as a bank you can never grow out of. And that's what we're trying to do together at JP Morgan.
Matt, let's end the conversation with 2025. What's the technology story going to be in Europe next year?
I think the technology story, it's such a global industry. It's going to be very much the same as what we're seeing in the U.S. markets. I think we are starting to see a broadening out beyond the Magnificent Seven and starting to see investors to look more toward some of the smaller cap names, some of the higher growth names that aren't in that large cap basket. We're starting to see similar things happen in Europe. I think Jamie earlier noted that we may still see a somewhat more muted IPO market in the first 6 months or so of the year, but we are seeing a ramp in activity of companies preparing to go public. That's happening in the U.S. That's happening for European companies that want to go public in the States, and that's happening for EMEA-based companies that will go public here. So I think the future is looking brighter for IPOs. It might not be a stampede in the first couple of months of next year, but it's certainly looking like 25 is setting itself up to be better than 24 and certainly than 23 was.
Matt Gow, for more, we thank you, Head of Tech Investment Banking in Europe for JP Morgan. Now let's just talk about TikTok, because moments ago it responded to its lawsuits by 14 states alleging harmful features on the platform for children. Now the company says that we strongly disagree with these claims, many of which we believe to be inaccurate and misleading. We're proud of and remain deeply committed to the work we've done to protect teens. We will continue to update and improve our product. You can see the statement in full on Bloomberg.com. Ed.
All right, coming up on Bloomberg Technology, the world's largest virtual clinic for women and families raises $125 million in a Series F round. We're going to speak with the CEO, Kate Ryder. That's next. This is Bloomberg Technology.
Virtual clinic, the Maven Clinic, says it's raised $125 million in its latest Series F funding round, bringing its valuation to $1.7 billion. For more, we're joined by the CEO, Kate Ryder. And look, Stepstone Group leads the round. You've got existing investors, General Catalyst, Sequoia coming on board. What do they want to see you do with the new funds, Kate?
Oh, big plans, as you can imagine. But I think, we're really excited to complete this fundraising round at a time when there's never been more need in women's and family health. And I think over the last decade since we started, we've really been able to build a comprehensive care platform, deliver better access across fertility, maternity, pediatrics, and menopause care. And now really the next decade is about transformation and taking a lot of the data and the distribution power that we have to go even deeper to really transform transform outcomes.
Your own Chief Product and Operating Officer says that Maven Clinic is a technology platform and a healthcare company in equal measure. We care about the technology element to a certain degree, first and foremost on this show, Kate. So what do you do with the data? Is it all about artificial intelligence? Where does that funding go to work?
Well, I think for us, the care engine that powers our care coaching and our telehealth and all of the providers that come together to take care of our patients is one of the areas that we're most excited about. And so if you can imagine all of the different ways and all of the different data points that our members generate, both on the platform as well as through third-party sources like wearables or data in EMRs, if all of our providers have access to that, then just the care itself becomes that much better. You can get into predicting risk. But really it should feel, healthcare is such a fragmented industry with your data in so many different places that I think for across all journeys, it's just going to start to feel better very, very soon as Maven and other platforms like ourselves start to really harness the power of artificial intelligence in our underlying technology.
Kate, Maven is a great example of technology and a different approach to an industry that is beholden to an insurance system. I always ask about this. How do you fit within America's insurance system? So in practice, it's actually easy for parents who have to decide, can I do this? Can I make use of this service in a way that I can afford it?
Yeah, it's a great question. And, for us, we truly believe in an industry as central as women's and family healthcare, you have to innovate from within and partner with insurers and providers to deliver the best care and experiences for members. And so for us, we actually do partner with some of the largest insurers. So whereas we're helping fill in a lot of gaps in access to care with our virtual care model, we're also helping members understand their benefits, what's covered, what's not. And then in fertility specifically, we are the payer. So we have a carve-out fertility model called Maven Managed Benefit, where we have contracted rates with a lot of different fertility clinics, best in class around the country. And so that also allows our members to have a really transparent experience while they're managing their fertility journeys, know exactly how much everything costs, get the virtual care and coaching through Maven. And then as they make their way into the maternity journey, that's also when we're really partnered with the health insurer to help them have the healthiest outcome, possible during their pregnancy and get all the right access to their benefits.
Caroline asked you what the investors in this Series F wanted to see. And the other question to finish this conversation that comes out of a Series F is, when is your company going to stand on its own 2 feet, make meaningful revenue, the business model support your business? When?
I would like to think we're standing on our own 2 feet and making meaningful revenue today. However, if what you're asking about is going public, then it is certainly, we do want to, be a public company one day. I think it's really important that, we center women and families at the center of our care model for us to remain independent. And so we're very heads down on our product roadmap. There's still so much left to do and to build. So we're taking a few more big bets first, but the public markets is where we intend to head.
Kate Ryder, Maven Clinic CEO, it's great to have you back on Bloomberg Technology. Thank you very much and congrats.
Looking now at the next edition of Bloomberg Chief Future Officer. I sat down with Etsy CFO, Rachel Glazer, who is keeping the e-commerce giant focused on growth as post-pandemic inflation cuts into spending. Here's how she's using AI to help.
I think Etsy is uniquely positioned to benefit from AI. Finding that needle in the haystack is tricky. That's part of what makes Etsy both delightful and frustrating to people. And being able to serve the good stuff to the top fastest is where AI can really benefit us.
Our mission is keeping commerce human, and actually we talk about AI as helping us to be superhuman. It's really the partnership between AI and humans that makes Etsy work.
AI can help Etsy's customers personalize their searches and steer shoppers more directly to items they may want to buy. It's also helped the company improve reliability by predicting delivery times more precisely. But that doesn't solve a larger challenge, getting more consumers to think of Etsy more often and ultimately become repeat buyers. To this end, Etsy invented gift mode.
Getting in the top of mind consideration when you're thinking, I have a gift, I'm going to go to Etsy, just getting that to be more habitual gift mode provides a perfect opportunity for that. We get to know the gifter, but we also get to know the recipient. So it's a way to, sort of a more viral way to bring in more, introduce more people to Etsy.
Etsy introduced gift mode with a flourish, rolling it out to an audience of millions.
That's a really good gift.
Now we got to get France something.
Wait, we could use Etsy's new gift mode.
Plateau de fromage! Ooh la la!
Don't panic. Gift easy with gift mode. New on Etsy.
You, took a big, bold, fast bet this year and went for a Super Bowl ad. How much is marketing part of the process? How important is that as a cost base?
Yeah, I love marketing. I was told by another CEO that I work for that I'm the most growth-oriented CFO that he had ever worked with, because I'm a big believer in spending that money to increase brand awareness. The big bet on the Super Bowl ad was never intended to be an ROI positive investment. It was really intended to be a launch of a new initiative, a product. We've said a lot of times that it was a kickoff, not the mic drop.
Don't miss Bloomberg Chief Future Officer featuring Etsy CFO Rachel Glazer tonight, 9:30 p.m. New York time. Ed.
Okay, time for talking tech. And first up, Rivian shares plunged last week after it slashed its production outlook. We know why. A miscommunication between Rivian and a supplier left the car maker without access to copper windings, a core component in its electric motors. Plus, the UK is opening an office to speed up approvals of AI, drone, and other new technologies. The Regulatory Innovation Office is designed to reduce the time entrepreneurs wait to get inventions to market. It will also streamline the regulatory hurdles startups deal with. And Google's assessing nuclear power as a possible energy source for data centers. It may join Microsoft and Amazon in using atomic energy to feed the AI boom. The company's not ruled out Japan as a source for its energy. Karen.
What a show. What a lot of breaking news. That does it for this edition of Bloomberg Technology.
Recap, check out the pod. You know where to find it. From New York and SF, this is Bloomberg Technology.